What's good, Rebellion Gang? It's your man, Reuben back in the cut with another lit video. And I'm here with
Dad.
And welcome to the Reuben podcast, episode 2. In today's podcast video, we're going to be talking about the Mariah Carey and Oprah interview.
Mm-hmm.
And this interview went down on the Oprah Conversation on Apple TV+. Make sure you guys like this video as well. That really helps the video.
Yeah.
Make sure you do that. So Dad will be my first guest here on my podcast, and he probably will be doing a lot more anyway, seeing that he is kind of on my channel part-time now, so you guys will probably get to know him anyway. But welcome to the podcast, Dad.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me onto your podcast. Yeah, it's something that it'll be interesting to see how we go through the night. This is going to be an interesting topic.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. My dad and I actually sat down to watch the interview together. And so that's why one of the reasons why we decided to do this podcast together for this episode. My first podcast, episode 1, was ranking Rihanna's albums from worst to best, in my opinion. So make sure you guys click on my channel to watch that video if you have not already seen it. Also coming up after this podcast video, my next podcast video, episode 3, will be ranking Chris Brown's albums from worst to best.
Wow. Yep.
So that'll be dope as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that if you guys are Team Breezy or fans of Chris Brown. Now, this interview with Oprah was a lead up to Mariah's book, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, which is coming out on the 29th of September. Now, I'm going to have to try and get my version online somewhere because I think it's not released to bookstores till a little bit later.
That's in New Zealand.
In the physical in New Zealand, yeah. So I'm going to have to get it online, I think, to read the whole thing. But in this interview with Oprah, she kind of touched on a few topics in the book, and we're going to talk about that in this podcast.
That's exciting.
Now, also, her compilation album that everybody knows about, the Rarities, featuring, unreleased tracks and rare songs, will be released on October 2nd as well. So don't worry, we're going to cover the book, we're going to cover the album, we're going to include that stuff on the channel. So MC content, I've got you covered, man. So make sure you subscribe so that you guys can get that content, guys. And don't forget to turn on my post notification bell as well. Before this, I had never heard about Oprah's Conversation on Apple TV. I didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently that's a thing. It was an interesting choice for Mariah to choose to be interviewed by Oprah. But then again, they've done like 9 interviews in the past, so it's not surprising.
Yeah, this is, I think, her 10th interview.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, for me, it's...
It was something interesting for you.
Yeah, it was interesting for me because, there was more to her than what the eye can see.
Yeah, and see, coming from the older generation, it's interesting to see my dad's point of view, guys. So that's why it's also pretty lit that he's on the podcast, so I can ask him some questions as well and get feedback on what he thought of the interview as well. So I get to talk about my views, then I can ask you as well. So
yes.
Yeah, man. Are we ready to talk about it? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get into it then. Let's get it.
Okay.
Okay, and move in a bit because you're moving too much out of frame. Yeah, like that. Okay, so let's talk about the interview.
Yeah.
So at the start of the interview with Oprah, they just started with a biography about Mariah. Obviously, we all know the stats, and that was a good way to start.
Yeah.
I like that. Then from there, Oprah kind of talked briefly about aspects from the book and some of her thoughts, and then she kind of went into her questioning to Mariah about different questions that she had and kind of getting Mariah to expand on different thoughts. I think Oprah was a good choice because they have that history. They've talked together before. Do you think she was a good interviewer? I know there's been some controversy, people saying there could have been someone better, but I think it was a good choice. What do you think?
Well, I think Mariah was open and honest, and it gave us a look at what her life was about. By far, Oprah Winfrey was the perfect interviewer, mainly because I think Oprah Winfrey made Mariah feel comfortable.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
And talking about her life.
Yeah, I think she probably overall was the best choice.
Yeah.
Some people were saying Wendy Williams, but I don't think so.
Well, like we said before, Oprah Winfrey has had a lot of interviews with her before.
Yeah, so I think it was probably a good base.
Yeah.
Lambs, I need your help. I am on a goal of trying to get to 9K.
We can do it.
We can do it. So I need your support, guys. And also, eventually, obviously, trying to get to 10K by Christmas time.
Yoo-hoo!
So if we actually get there, that'll be amazing. But we need you to subscribe. Now, don't forget to leave your comments down below, guys. Let us know what you guys thought of the interview. I want to hear from you.
Definitely.
Dad, shut up. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Mariah's childhood. She really went into depth about her childhood, and I was really surprised by some of the information that she brought up from her childhood.
That was really emotional at times.
Yeah, it was emotional at times, and to be honest, guys, being a grown man myself, a straight man, I cried 2 times.
And I did.
Yeah, which was so surprising, guys. No cap. I did not expect to cry. No cap. I did not expect to cry. I thought I might get emotional at points, but to actually think that I had tears coming down and I actually did cry in 2 parts, which I will get into, it just shows how real the interview was. So authentic.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the 2 times that I cried. The first time was when she told the story about her friend walking with her, Maureen, and also the time when she got the letter from the opera singer. Yeah. Those were the 2 times that I cried, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
So Mariah talked about her interracial upbringing with obviously her Black and Venezuelan father and her Irish Caucasian mother, and just the upbringing that they had. If you guys don't know, her mother, Patricia, was an opera singer and a vocal coach, and her father was some type of engineer. And she was obviously the youngest child, and her older siblings, Morgan and Allison Carey, were the 2 older siblings. And Mariah talked about how she was kind of younger, a lot younger than them. Yeah. And apparently they had a bit of jealousy towards the fact that she was lighter skinned and kind of passing. Yeah. And they felt maybe a bit jealous of the fact that she had that advantage, I guess, is how they looked at it.
So from the beginning, really, there was trauma even at the early age of her growing up.
Yeah.
It was something that she never wanted to experience, but that happened to her. And it
wasn't her fault.
No, it wasn't her fault. So the breakdown came at a very early age for her.
What do you mean by breakdown?
Her communication with her, with her siblings, they were non-existent because...
Yeah, pretty much.
Because she keeps saying they didn't know her.
Yeah.
And that's true today,
Yeah. And it sounds like she didn't have a necessarily close relationship with her father either. It was kind of like a relationship where she was living with her mother, Patricia Carey, and then she would kind of go and see her father from time to time. That's what I got from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she told some stories about taking a little girl, one of her friends, to her dad's place. And when they opened the door, the little girl got scared of the father because obviously his skin color. Yeah. And she obviously wasn't used to that, being a white young little girl.
Yeah.
And that was like a moment where Mariah was like, oh, I am different, being the fact that she's, biracial.
So her identity was questioned as well. So,
yeah,
she was wondering who she is. What a difficult time for her.
Yeah.
And growing up.
And for me, I can really relate to this story in many ways, because being biracial myself, obviously you can see my father here. I don't need to say it. And my mother is obviously a Caucasian white. So obviously I'm biracial and mixed race as well. And so I kind of always identified with Mariah in that sense. You know, growing up, you kind of do feel like you don't really fit in one space, because I wasn't necessarily fitting in with my dad's culture, and then I wasn't necessarily fitting in with white kids either.
No.
So I'm kind of in that middle ground where you're kind of on your own. And I guess, you know, when you look ethnic, it can be challenging. It can be.
Yeah. So the story really is about kids like her. We know that there's children out there in the world that are going through the same experiences of knowing where they come from, who they are. And this has just opened up the book, you know, as to how she was handling it. Oh, it's a great story.
Yeah, it really is, guys.
Yeah.
And just a quick story. I remember even when I was younger, going to the stores or going to the mall with mum, and shop assistants being kind of shocked when they would ask, "Oh, is that your son?" when I was with my mother, and a fellow Caucasian woman talking to mum and then looking at me and being like, "Oh, that's your son," you know, because we don't necessarily look the same, even though she is my mother, but you know what I mean? And that's kind of like some of that impact that I felt, you know, being biracial. So I definitely relate to Mariah in that sense, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And another part of the interview, she was talking about how she kind of feels 50-50 about her mother. Like, you know, she'll always care for her, but at the same time, she felt misunderstood, I guess you could say, from her mother.
Yeah, as she said previously in the interview, her mother really didn't know her.
Yeah.
So there was no relationship as far as the little girl, you know, that was inside of her. There was no connection with her mother.
Yeah.
So that became, you know, that was a disconnection.
Yeah, it's like a disconnect, really, from her mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And some of the choices that her mum made by putting her around people that weren't necessarily safe, leaving her with people that, you know, may have not have been a wise choice.
Yeah.
You know, her mother made some of those decisions, and that impacted her. Also, she said about how she felt dirty a lot of the time in terms of maybe not necessarily having her hair brushed. Obviously, having biracial hair is quite thick, and obviously her mother didn't necessarily know how to look after it. She just felt like unkept, I guess, is the way it came across to me, is what she was trying to say.
Well, yeah, it was unsafe being in an environment that was unsafe for her.
Yeah.
So she felt vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, you know, those are the things that meant a lot to her, as being safe, and she never got it.
Yeah. Facts. Now, there was a story that Mariah shared from her childhood. I believe she was super young, and she was walking down the street with a little girl called Maureen. She remembers her name.
That's right, yeah.
And the little girl stopped in her tracks when Mariah started singing, and she looked at her and basically said, "There's music around you when you sing. It's like there's music all around you. Instruments."
Yeah.
Honestly, guys, that got to me straight away. I started crying. I had a tear coming down. I was like, whoa, this is deep. I don't know why that impacted me. I just felt it come over me.
Oh, I think, like you said, it was a turning point for her. It's something that she remembered, and it was someone saying something nice about her and seeing her for who she really was.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. It was like finally that moment someone had seen her. Obviously, she didn't really know her siblings much, and then her father was obviously not there all the time, and with her mother there was a disconnect, but finally someone had noticed that she had talent.
She was saying that something good happened to her. It changed her, and she began to believe that she was this person that she was told that she was. You know, for anyone out there that's hanging on to a thread, you know, that's a good way to grab that and believe that whatever that person's saying about you, I would say grab it and go for it.
If it's positive.
If it's positive, yes.
For me, to hear that story about Maureen, it just made me feel good inside to know that was like the moment where Mariah really felt like, man, I'm special. She just went on to be music. I mean, she is the queen of music. You know, people say she's the queen of Christmas, but she's actually the queen of music.
Yeah.
Period. Okay, so I'm going to read a piece from the book that MC was talking about in regards to her siblings.
Okay.
She said, through the years, both my sister and brother have put me on the chopping block, sold lies to any gossip, rag, and trashy website that would buy or listen. They have attacked me for decades. But when I was 12 years old, my sister drugged me with Valium, offered me a pinky nail full of cocaine, inflicted me with third-degree burns.
Wow.
That's crazy. And tried to sell me out to a pimp. Now, that just tells you the environment she had around her.
A very toxic environment.
So toxic.
Yeah.
And it's no surprise that this affected her in her life, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so back in 2005, apparently Oprah held a Legends Ball or Legends Weekend, and she had all the big legends like Aretha, I think it was Aretha Franklin, Tina Turner, etc., Diana Ross, etc., and obviously Mariah was there, and they took a iconic photo with all the ladies that attended.
Okay.
And I think Mariah was next to Janet Jackson, so it just shows you the caliber of the people.
Yeah.
And anyway, so this took place and Mariah Carey met one of the most famous opera singers of all time. Her name was Leontine Price, and she was the most famous opera singer apparently in the world. And she met with Mariah at the Legends Weekend. After the weekend, apparently she sent a note to Mariah, and even Oprah didn't know about it.
Yeah.
And in the note, she said some amazing words, and I'm just going to quote what she said. Let's read. She said, quote, "In the difficult, demanding business of performing arts, you are the crown jewel of success.
Wow.
To achieve your level of success as a multidimensional artist is an outstanding measure of your artistic talent."
Yeah.
I love that. I love that, man.
Yeah.
She went on to say, "It was a pleasure to visit with you during the Legends Weekend and to tell you in person how much I admire you."
Wow.
And your artistry. Your creativity and performances are superb. You present your compositions with a depth of feeling that is rarely, if ever, seen or heard.
Wow.
It is a joy to watch you turn all of your obstacles you faced into stepping stones to success. Your devotion to your art and career are praiseworthy. This brings you a standing ovation and a resounding brava, brava, brava. Powerful. Now, this was the second time that I cried, guys, and I don't know why, it just really affected me.
I think her artistry was really recognised by someone of that calibre. Outstanding.
I think because it was so outstanding, it just really, the feeling came over you and I just felt it and I just got emotional, man. What can I say? Okay, so in 1993, Mariah Carey married the CEO or the chairman of Sony, Tommy Mottola. A lot of people already know the story about that. But basically, he discovered her when she was young through Brenda K. Starr. Mariah was background singing for her, and she was introduced to Tommy that way.
That's right.
And then, obviously, from there, they started working together in 1990, and then they got married in 1993.
Yeah.
But Mariah basically gave the picture that the relationship was oppressive.
Yeah.
And very stifling for her. Sing Sing, as she calls it, you know, the mansion basically where they were living was basically like a prison for her in a mental sense.
How many of us know this, that she was held captive, really?
I guess a lot of people didn't really realize that was going on at that time, you know?
Yeah.
because she was so huge.
She couldn't go anywhere.
Basically, he was controlling her with a monitoring type of attitude, even a bit of pride, I guess you would say, because it was like a power game for Tommy, being able to kind of keep her in this box in the house, basically.
She was practically trapped.
Yeah, basically. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Also, she shared a story where one night she would get up and leave to go toilet or to go to the kitchen to get something, and the intercom would come over the speakers in the house, and Tommy would be like, "Where you going? What you doing?" I was like, man, this guy is crazy, to think it was like that.
Yeah, well, it was like, get me out of here. Get me out of here.
Yeah, she said that her hairs were standing on the back of her head, and it was so cringy for her, so much cringe.
Yeah, scary.
So it sounded like Mariah was basically saying that she felt like, even though she married the man, and it probably was a bad idea, she felt that if they got married, it might change, but really it just intensified all the obsessiveness over her and the seclusion and those kind of vibes. She thought it would change, and maybe he would loosen up, maybe he would calm down a bit over time, but it didn't happen.
Well, the other part of it too was that there was a big age difference.
Yeah, it was like 20 years between both of them.
Yeah, so she was 23.
23 she was when they got married, around that time. And then he was like 43, something like that. It's just so much. That's like a massive age gap. Yeah. Massive. Quite an interesting story that she mentioned as well was about a time when she was in the studio in the mansion. Debrat was there and Jermaine Dupri, and her and Debrat wanted to go to Burger King. I believe it was Burger King.
Yeah.
To get some fries and stuff. And as soon as they left the property, it was like all hell broke loose. Where is she? Where is she? Kind of thing. And they had the guns and everything. And they sent, people out to try and find her. They were calling her on the phone. Where are you? And it just became like a spectacle. It's just so stupid to think that's what they were doing to like keep her protected. I can understand why Mariah felt she was in a prison.
They wanted her to be working.
All the time.
Working all the time. And she couldn't do that. She had enough.
Mm.
And they didn't give her the chance to have a break.
Have freedom, Have some freedom.
Yep.
I mean, she was only like 25, 26 at the time. Give her a break. So basically the whole relationship was oppressive, to be frank.
Yeah.
Mariah was basically saying that her real identity has been hidden for all these years, basically. It's like the child in her was always there, but at the same time, her true story wasn't told, until now, until this book release.
Yeah, it is now time for her true identity to shine.
Yeah, I agree. Mariah did kind of feel like her family wanted to treat her like an ATM machine with a wig on, she said, to the point where like they're kind of just using her for money,
Yeah.
Okay, you're my sister, but where's the money coming from?
Your money.
I need that financial support. That's kind of what her siblings have done to her over the years, Seems like. Her family kind of thought she was like the gateway to money,
Mm.
There was a part in the interview where she kind of touched on the glitter era and everything that went down, kind of the disaster of what happened. And, she was basically saying she didn't sleep for 6 days. I couldn't even imagine that. You would have had massive headaches.
Well, her workload was
intense.
Pretty intense.
And they were basically pushing her new label and people around her to get projects finished, I'm guessing for the glitter project. She just got to a point where it was just too much. She was tired. She had to go, and she decided to go to her mother's house that she owned.
Yeah.
And kind of seek refuge. It didn't go too well.
Yeah, so the story is that her mother turned her away. The police were called and she was carted off.
So I think she said something about she was cleaning the dishes and then she kind of just lost it, and she had an argument with her mother, I think, or something like that. And it just kind of went south quickly. And then when her mother called the cops, instead of kind of siding with Mariah, her mother decided to kind of take control of the situation and kind of encourage the cops to take her away, basically.
Yeah.
And Mariah basically said that at that point she felt like, well, I might as well just go with the cops and just make it easier for everyone. In a way, it's kind of what she said.
Yeah. The problem was that she needed someone to love her. and her mother didn't do that.
Yeah, her mother kind of just, I guess, did what she thought was the best thing for that moment. And it makes you wonder what she kind of had in mind. And were they trying to do a money grab, or were they trying to get control of assets? Like, your mind goes so many places to think what maybe they were trying to do.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe it wasn't that. Maybe she just felt like her daughter needed to go. I don't know.
A sad time.
It was a sad time. But hey, years later, the Lambs got glitter to number 1.
Yeah.
So, it kind of worked out in the end, Yeah, and there was a funny part in the interview. Oprah asked Mariah, do you think you're finally worthy of happiness and success? And Mariah kind of didn't answer the question directly. She kind of said, I do feel like I'm worthy of existing now. And then Oprah goes, hold on, sis, hold up. I wasn't asking you that question. And then she kind of repeated the question. I thought that was a funny moment.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah, it was a really intense interview. I took a lot away from it. But let me ask you, Dad, for the final part of the podcast.
Yeah.
Let me ask you your thoughts. What did you take away from this interview, man?
For me, what I got out of this, Oprah said to her, give me one word that describes all this that you've been through, and how do you feel about it? And her reply was, freer.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, Mariah, that you do feel freer. You're free. And I hope that this story will actually free others that feel locked in, for others that can't see the person in them. And I think about the song, The Hero. There's a hero that lives in every one of you. Thank you. Thank you.
So I guess for me, what I took away from the interview would be that, you got to look at the camera. Oh. You're looking over there.
Sorry.
What I took away from the interview mainly would be that she never gave up. Absolutely. And it makes me think of her song, Make It Happen. You got to make it happen, guys. And I feel like she's really stuck true to what she said right from the beginning of her career.
Yeah.
She was going to make it happen, and she did. She took her pain and turned it into beauty in the songs, and she took her trials and turned it into success. And she's had one of the most successful careers ever in music, and it's just, you can't even compare. So I think I definitely took away that she never gave up, and I'm going to hold on to that. So thank you, MC. I will take that with me and remember to never give up. It's just reinforced that fact. I already believed in that idea of never giving up, but now it encourages me to even believe it more now. No cap.
Yeah, no cap.
Don't you say no cap. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I feel like, she felt freer.
Yeah.
And you could just see her sigh of relief after she did the interview. It just makes me want to get that book even more, guys. What about you?
I would say, go and get it now.
You better go get it, lambs. Make sure you go get The Meaning of Mariah Carey, guys, from the bookstores. I recommend it.
And I recommend it.
So you definitely should check out the Oprah interview if you haven't already seen it, guys. The Meaning of Mariah Carey, the book. It's going to be an interesting read. I know it's going to be dope. So that is us for this episode of the podcast. What did you guys think? Let us know down below in the comments. We really want to hear your guys' thoughts.
We do.
So don't forget, guys, we will be covering the Rarities album and also the book as well. And we have more reactions coming as well. Not just Mariah Carey, other artists as well. But obviously Mariah will always be a part of the channel, so don't freak out. And just so much more lit content coming your way. If you guys want to make sure that you get that content, you know what to do. Make sure you subscribe and turn on my post notification bell as well to be notified when I post new content. And make sure you smash that like button for me, guys. Smash that like button.
Yeah.
You guys know you enjoyed it. So yeah, basically help us get to 9K, guys. I reckon we can do it.
I reckon we can.
I reckon we can. We just need your support, guys. So
come on. Come on.
So yeah, that's our thoughts on the Mariah Carey and Oprah interview. on Apple TV. I loved it. I feel like it was her most authentic interview that I've probably ever seen.
Well, coming from an old man's point of view, I was blown away.
You're blown away.
I'm blown away.
Thank you, MC, for being transparent and authentic. I know that would have been hard, but at least now that brings more freedom for her.
What a story.
So thank you guys for watching. You did good, Dad, for your first podcast video.
I can only get better.
Facts. Thank you, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Who knows what it will be? Stay tuned. You'll just have to wait and see. Thank you, Dad. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until next time, guys, stay fly and remember,
stay humble.
Peace.
Peace.
Done.